Right guys, the owner of the car's asked us to look at another little issue. It's quite common on these old 3-doors. The rear spoiler was loose. You could basically get out of it and wiggle it about. The reason they do that is there's two fixings, the two top fixings, bolts, small bolts that go into these brackets, and the bottom one is just a rivet. And the rivet hole starts to wear bigger, and that comes loose. And then as you can see here, this bracket's come loose, the rivets start to get slack. What didn't help with this job is it was held on with Sikaflex. So we'll take that off, clean it up, clean this up behind it, blast that and put a bit of protection on it. But you can see what we've done. We've taken the brackets here, we've taken the bracket off, drilled the old rivets out. What we'll do is put these stronger, better rivets back in, which will make that tighter. And that one, the captive nut had broke off, so we've put a clip in with a thread in it. We'll rivet that back on with a better rivet and put new rivets in there. And then once that's done, that will be a better, more permanent fix. And hopefully this spoiler will stay nice and tight. Right, that's all the brackets fastened back on to the tailgate properly this time, we hope. What we've used is these rivets called a peel back rivet. Hard to explain how they work, but what they actually do, rather than a conventional rivet like this one, which just squashes up against itself and causes a bit of a mushroom behind it, these ones that cut 4 legs as you pull them in, and this part actually wraps round a little bit like a plasterboard plug when you've got a poor fixing. So we've used these to get a really strong fixing behind the metalwork. So hopefully these will last a lifetime now. We've blasted this bracket that was all rusty, done our best to clean up behind it. You can see there where there's a dent where somebody's had a screwdriver in at some point and what have you, but we've cleaned it up. I'll put a bit of wax all behind there. We'll use these rivets in them ones there to fix that problem. So that's it. I'll now put the rear spoiler back on. Right, that's the spoiler back on, finished. Really pleased with it. I'm sure you'll agree, it's one of them jobs that you see a lot of 3-doors with them all loose. You can see real big gaps sometimes around here. But obviously now, because we've put all new rivets in, you can see it fits perfectly tight up to the tailgate. There's no gaps. And you can see it's strong. The centre one, I was a bit worried about that, I'll be honest, but that now is absolutely rock solid. So perfect, another really good job done. Another one off the list.
Right guys, so whilst Paul's been doing the rear spoiler, you might remember that last week we mentioned all this alarm wiring that needed taken out. So I've spent the morning basically with the bottom of the dashboard in bits pulling all this old alarm wiring out. So there's probably quite a lot of cars out there which had these. I mean, this has got October 1995 written on it. So it's 20 odd years. It's getting on for
quick maths, come on Steve.
30 years old. And chances of this still working properly are slim to none. And I imagine there's a lot of cars out there that have issues, startup issues, running issues, and a lot of it will be down to this kind of thing. Old technology, old electronics. The best thing for it is to put it in the bin.
Way! And I might just bring your attention to Steve's new jacket, of course. Look at that.
Managed to squeeze 30 quid out of him for a new jacket.
I've actually made him look even more handsome.
Along with that, cam belt covers on. Again, really makes the engine look complete now. Compared to what it was like before we started. Vast improvement. And we've heard back from customer and he's over the moon with it. So another job done. Another car pretty much finished. So we'll get that pushed around the back now, and the next car to come in is the one that's just outside. And that's we'll assess that, see what parts we're gonna change and make a start.
Yeah, all we're waiting for this now is the wheels to come back from refurbishing. When they come back, we'll bolt them on. That'll make a massive difference to the car. Wheels and windows, they always say. And hopefully next week or so, we've got a proper guy coming up to help us out who's going to give it a detail, proper valet inside, and we'll update on that when it's finished. Right guys, we're down at Paddock Ten Paint. We've come for have a quick look around the car, and we got a phone call to tell us that it's in epoxy primer, which is the first stage of the process for this car. So basically we've come down, main reason to have a look at it for our own interest, but mainly to discuss where the stone chip goes underneath the cars, because again we've copied my Bastos car, so we want this car to be exactly the same, perfect to what the Eggenberger cars were. So what we've done down is come and shown Gary. Gary's been doing the work on this car for us. I've known Gary years, by the way. I used to be going to school with him. So what we're doing, Gary's marked out here, and everything from this side of the line is where he'll apply the stone guard. Comes halfway across the floor pans here, up inside all the inner wheel arches and that, as you can see. So he's just prepping that now. He's wiping it down after he's prepped all the underside, put the stone chip on, then he'll prep the rest of the shell, do the repairs, dints, scrapes, what have you. And then into some, you said you're going to do inside wet on wet, Gary, aren't you? Yeah.
Wet on wet where necessary.
Yeah, so he's going to prep that, get rid of any scratch marks or anything he finds. Then he'll wet on wet prime and paint that straight in one go. Then obviously the outside will have an eye build primer, then flatted, and about 65,000 coats of gloss black. So hopefully it should look absolutely fantastic. We're pleased with what we've seen so far. It's what we wanted, what we expected. So we're really, really pleased with it. Yeah, it's looking good. You can see all inside there, every bit of the cage they managed to get right round it, which is not easy. Don't show the runs. Yeah, no, we're pleased. We think it looks good. So we will update you as we go. The next stage, obviously, you'll see the car painted inside, and the outside will be in the eye build primer. Then we'll come back and show you when the vehicle's prepped, ready to go into paint. We'll show you all the repairs and that have been done on it. So keep tuning in. Thanks for watching. Right, guys, we did say if you had any questions or anything to put them in one of the descriptions.
Won't be one of our videos without your phone ringing.
Right guys, one of the things we do say on all of our videos, that if you've got any questions you'd like to ask, to drop them in the comments and we'll do our best to answer them. We can't answer them all, obvious reasons, but one of the questions was about Steve really. Somebody wanted to know what he does, what he tries to do, and how he ended up here working with me really. So I'll let Steve tell you a little bit about himself. I mean, we've known each other for sort of from a distance for quite a long time. We got to know each other a little bit more recently at the cafe at NY500. And obviously he gave me a bell because I had an advert running looking for a fabricator. So I'll hand you over to Steve and he'll tell you a little bit about his cross-dressing and what else he does for a living.
Yeah, so where to start? I guess I've always been into anything to do with cars, motorsport, that kind of thing. I got my first car when I was probably 12 or 13. And I hit with a Haynes manual and kind of taught myself. I took the cylinder head off it and put new valves in it and got it running again. I grew up like out in the countryside and pestered my dad to take me out and show me how to drive it, which he did down the little quiet country lanes. And then, yeah, that was probably I was 12, 13. Then again pestered him, wanted a welder for my birthday, which is probably a bit of a strange thing to ask at 13, 14 years old for a welder for your birthday, but that's what I wanted.
As well as the Barbie.
As well as the Barbie, yeah. And
as in doll, not barbecue.
And he kind of agreed on the condition that he'd buy me one as long as someone would show me how to use it. And I was lucky enough that he were doing a lot with Hull City Council, and they agreed that I could go in on a summer holidays and stuff like that to their engineering centre and they'd teach me how to weld. So that's kind of where my whole passion for fixing up cars and welding and learning to weld and mechanics and that kind of thing came from. It kind of went on from there. So I've always been into cars. wasn't really interested too much with school. Did my A-levels, and then again, my dad, you know, I was working on a farm at the time, just doing maintenance, you know, tractors and looking after feed mill and stuff like that. And he kind of said to me, it's not really a career. You need to go and get something. And by chance, so again, someone at the engineering centre said, oh, they're looking for apprenticeships for working on gas turbines, which are basically jet engines. And does he fancy having a go at that? So I kind of thought, yeah, I'll have a bash at that. And so I've spent probably the last 22, 23 years of my life working on rotating machinery. So I now have my own business in oil and gas, and I do compressors, jet engines, big gearboxes, steam turbines, that type of thing. I'll go out to Middle East, America, most of Europe, as far as Kazakhstan, a little bit into Malaysia, working on rotating equipment and overseeing big shutdowns on oil and gas refineries. And then when I start doing that, it frees me up to come here and work with Paul. So that's a little bit of background on me and why I'm here. I did work for Z Cars briefly for about 2 years when I wanted a job where I knew where I was. Instead of being bounced all around the world, I wanted a job based at home for a bit. So I worked for Z Cars for about 2 years, building all sorts of stuff, putting motorbike engines in the back of minis and ZZR 1400s and Robin Reliance and that type of stuff. And I learnt a lot there with regards fabrication and, you know, building cars, not just fitting parts. And then obviously my engineering background as well gives me a lot of knowledge when it comes to this kind of stuff. Not just fitting parts, but if we need to remachine something or we need to come up with a repair process or procedure, you know, that's the kind of thing we can now do. So it works, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I must admit, and I'm not just saying it because he's here, I'm really, really pleased Steve's come to help me out, really, because, you know, I had a job offer for fabricator, and I got some great people apply, some lovely people, but nobody who just really ticked the boxes for what I was after. And Steve contacted me and said, look, you know, I can't work for you 7 days a week. Well, you ain't even worked 5 days a week yet, but because of all these, did I mention short weeks? Anyway, so, you know, we said, yeah, let's give it a go. Let's see if it works. And it's worked absolutely perfectly. Steve goes away, does his job for a week, 2 weeks at a time, which, you know, I just carry on, and then he comes back and we crack on. And yeah, it's working well, isn't it? We have a good laugh.
Yeah,
we get on well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Nice, relaxed atmosphere, no real pressure.
No, I mean, you know, the thing with us is we do the job right. We do it right first time. We try anyway. And the environment isn't like a normal Ford dealership or anything where you've got 1.2 hours to do that job. You know, I said to Steve, we do it properly, take your time, and it's worked out perfect, hasn't it? Yeah. It really has. It worked out well. I
think the main thing is I'm not here because it's just a job. I'm here because I'm enthusiastic. I love working on these type of cars, and I'm here because I want to be here.
And I think that's a key thing, really, is nowadays is trying to find people that are enthusiastic. All you tend to get from some people is they want to work as little amount of hours as they can for as much money as they can, and they have really no passion and love for the car. And for what we do, you have to have a lot of passion. You want to have to do it. You have to love the cars, and Steve does. So, yeah, I'm really, really pleased he's come to help me out. I appreciate it.
All right, well, hopefully I haven't bored you too much with my life story. And
we'll go and kiss and cuddle now on our own. So.
All right, that's it. That's kind of sums me up, I guess.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Right. He won't talk too much about his cross-dressing that I keep going on about.
Hey, that's a whole different range of
videos. We'll leave that for another video. Right, guys, Friday morning. Thank God the turbo's come back. Whee! Looking absolutely sexy. Steve said it almost looks as sexy as me. Stop laughing. So there we are. Turbo completely rebuilt. Ready to go. And we had the manifolds done, but one of the bolts had sheared off in the manifold, so Turbo Performance have very kindly got that extracted for us. At the same time, I asked them if they'd blast the manifolds, so they all match the turbo. So we've had all them done. So my job today is to fit that onto that. Right, and a little treat for us over in the posh part of our workshop. If you come and have a look, we'll show you. We had our van recently done. Zach from Vinyl Works did the full van for us, and he's just doing a little bit on the trailer to match the van. So he's doing that for us this morning. Here he is. He's hiding round here, pretending to do some work, making a big job of this small job. Say hello, Zach. Hello, Zach. And he's also done this for us. He hasn't finished it yet. He's got the red to put on. He's just letting that dry off. But we've had a, just in case people couldn't remember where they were. A nice big sign. Right, that's what's happening in here, what I'm doing, so we'll now go and have a look and see what Steve's doing today.
Right guys, as Paul said, as he's been walking around and showing everybody around workshop, I've been actually doing some work today. So I've gone through the other car and I've written a list on that of all the bits and pieces that we need to order and stuff, because customer wants it putting back to standard. So we've got AFR gauges to come out and heat vents to go back in, all the bling under the bonnets to come off, brakes to change, that type of thing. So there'll be a big order for parts going in for that. So whilst we're waiting on that one, I've been back on with this one. So this is the 500 that Paul were working on, and he mentioned in the last video that suspension don't quite fit, or it don't sit as well as it maybe should. It's a bit down at the back. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the conies off it, and we're going to order a full set of springs. Basically put new better springs back on it. Hopefully that'll sort radite out. So a few bits on this. When whoever's built it back up originally, they put bolts back in wrong way around and they came in from opposite side. So I'm having to split brake pipes on the back in order to get them out. And also what we do is we take drive shaft off from rear diff, and then we can just drop the arm a bit further and pull the springs out. So that's my job for the rest of the morning. And then that'll probably see me through till end of play today. So that's me. Right,
Friday evening again, come round quick. Well, it will have done for us because we've only done 2 days this week. So it has been a very, very short week, and next week's another short week, and the week after that is a short week, and the week after that is, when do we ever get a full week in? Anyway, a little update for you for what I've done. The turbo has now come back from Turbo Performance with all the nicely blasted manifolds. So that's now refitted and back on. So all I've got to do to this engine, take it off the engine stand, put the rear crank seal in it, put the new clutch on, and the engine can go back in the car. And is that all I've done this week, Steve?
Done a lot of talking.
Yeah, a lot of talking.
A lot on the phone, but it's part of the job.
Yeah, a lot on the phone, yeah. Yeah, stop ringing me. So that's me done. So I'll hand over to Steve and he'll tell you where he's got to.
Right guys, so as Paul said, and as you've seen as well earlier in the video, I stripped suspension off the 500. What we found is, even with top nut tight, the springs are still slack. So we think these are wrong springs. We've checked against some other genuine Coney springs, and these are a lot shorter. The other ones was probably a good 3 inches longer, and also a different spring rate as well. The coil sizes was different in terms of thickness. So we think that these are possibly wrong springs for a car. And also, once we've had the spring off, we found that the damper itself is no good. We can push the damper rod all the way in and it doesn't start to self-extend. So that to us says that the seals have gone, there's no rebound left in it. Best thing to do with this is change it, and we'll put a whole new kit on it. Obviously we'll keep these bits and what have you, but we'll put new springs, new shockers front and rear. So that's what I did this afternoon. And then also, this might look like it's the same car as what you'd seen in last video, but this is actually a different one. We've just had a bit of a sea of Moonstone cars at the minute. So this is the car that you might have seen a couple of videos ago. What this is in for is basically we're going to remove all this. I've done a list, or I've been round car and I've done a list of what we need to do, and as you can see it's quite an extensive list. So we've got inside the car, we've got gauges, and there's an AFR gauge that either we relocate it somewhere more discreet or we take it out. At the minute it's in the centre vent position. So it's a bit of a giveaway that the car's not standard and the customer wants it more standard looking. You know, we've got bits like this to change. It'll have an OEM airbox that'll go in, OEM looking, heat shield, the strut brace will be coming off, new set of plug leads, all new hoses, boost hoses, water swell pot will go, power steering tank will go, and we'll give it a good clean up. So it'll be very similar looking at the end of it to the car that you'd seen in last week's video, but stuff such as the verniers and things like that we won't be changing, because obviously we don't want to get into having to remap the car and stuff like that. So performance wise it will remain the same, but aesthetically it'll obviously look like a standard car. So that's kind of where we'll be next week. Hopefully we'll see Paul put the engine back in the car, and then we might get a comparison video out of it as well. That's if there's enough days in the week. That is, there's only 4 days, so we'll have to start working more than 23 hours a day. Right, thanks very much, guys. As again, we appreciate you following us. If you do watch the videos, give us a subscribe and you'll get automatic notification when the next one's coming up. But thanks again, and drop us a like and a comment. Thanks very much.